Peter and Jim.
Peter Edward Rose, the hit king, is in the house, and with a couple of Tony Perez's granddaughters, I understand, right?
These are Eduardo's girls.
Eduardo's girls. Very nice. Eduardo is in town. As you heard Johnny Bench talking about, there's about 40 family members with Tony. How much does Tony Perez mean to you guys, Pete?
You know, Jim, you got to remember one thing about Doggy. I met him 55 years ago. 1960, him and I were teammates in Geneva, New York. So I've known Tony more than anybody else in the world of baseball during his baseball career. And, you know, some people will say Johnny, some people will say Joe, some people will say me. But Tony was the glue to the Big Red Machine. I mean, he was the guy we depended on. He was the RBI guy. Johnny was a good RBI guy, too. We all know that. They're all Hall of Famers. But I was telling someone tonight how lucky I was to be a leadoff hitter and have 3 guys coming up after me all have statues at the ballpark. I don't think that's ever happened to another player. Right. Think about that. I mean, you're leading off, and you got Joe coming up, and you got Johnny coming up, and you got Tony coming up. I mean, what position to be in? And Tony, you know, I'm not a believer that you win big games in the clubhouse, but when they traded Tony after the '78 season, I believe, or 77 season, I don't think they understood what he meant to all the Latino players. Yeah. You know, the Davies, the Bourbones, the Geronimos, the Armbristers, all those type of players. He was like a father to those guys. And Johnny and I and Joe all had so much respect for Tony. And I've never seen him mad except that one night when Gibson threw at him and he started to fight with Bob Gibson. That's the only time I've ever seen Tony Perez mad at another player, a writer, a fan, you know, anybody. Tony Perez is just never mad. He's but then there again, he wasn't never mad, but he was very aggressive when he was in the batter's box, and very aggressive when he had a man scoring position.
One of the gauges that you can measure of how much people like someone is if they poke fun at them in a fun way. And it seems like to this day that you guys love to razz Tony Perez.
He was the best. I mean, he'd have a boat oar and just stir it. He'd come down to me and Joe and say, you know what Johnny just said about you guys? And he'd go up to Johnny and say, you know what Joe just said about you? You know what Pete just said about you? And he'd go over to Davey and say, Davey, they're over making fun of you. And it'd just go around the clubhouse. And that's the way Doggy was. But you know, he knew when to do it, when not to do it, and he was like the rest of us. If we lost, kept his mouth shut. Everything's, you know, let's go on to the next day and try to win the game. So he was a winner, no question about it.
Does it ever get old reuniting with these guys?
Oh, no, not at all. But I wish we could do it every week. We did it at the All-Star game, and we're all getting older now. And fortunately, we're all still in place. And it was the most entertaining team in the history of baseball, Jimbo. It wasn't the greatest team. I'm not going to say that.
I'll say it. It was the greatest team.
We're the only team to date, August 21st, 2015, with a black Hall of Famer, a white Hall of Famer, a Latino Hall of Famer, and a Hall of Fame manager. No other team had that ingredient ever. Now, someday maybe the Yankees will, because Torrey made it, Jeter will make it, Rivera will make it, maybe Clemens will make it. But until that happens, we're standing alone on that category.
I got one final question for you. We've got a statue of Johnny out there. We've got a statue of Joe. We've got a statue of Tony. Barring anything that happens with you in the Hall of Fame, would you like to have a statue of you outside this ballpark someday?
Oh, that would be the ultimate goal for any player, especially any player who played for his hometown. You know, statue of me in Cincinnati, that would be the ultimate. I think I agree with Johnny. That would be bigger than going to the Hall of Fame. You know, to know that 150 years from now, when people come to the ballpark, they'll be able to go by the history that's out there. And it's pretty good right now. You got the old left-hander out there, and you got Joe out there, and you got Johnny out there, and now you're going to have Doggy out there. And I'm missing a couple guys.
Frank Robinson's out there.
I mean, there's just this franchise has been such a rich franchise of good athletes over the years, and it's nice for the city. It's nice for the whole tri-state area to be able to come to the ballpark and see those statues.
Well, it's great seeing you guys as always, Pete. Thanks for the time, and I'm sure Tony appreciates that you were here, my man.
I love that guy.
All right, that's Peter Edward Rose. Let's go back to you guys.